Hi everyone, I thought I would do a virtual flip through of We Deal in Lead, my Dark Tower inspired Weird West Wanders TTRPG. So the PDF is about 90-95% done, maybe more. Just waiting on the second edit pass, and then it's going to go to the printers. So I thought while we're waiting for that, and while we're waiting for the hardcover, I'd do a flip through of it, or a read through. Right, so you've seen the amazing cover. Amazing artists on this one. So Goran did the cover, and this piece here is from Amita. Right, so we've got the table of contents. Here's one of the first gunslingers, one of the first featured gunslingers. That's art from Felipe Faria. And throughout is art from Diaz Holm. So he releases all of his art with a Creative Commons license, which is amazing, and it's allowed me to use some excellent evocative pieces like this one. So as Karen, We Deal in Lead is based on Karen, which starts off with a section on design philosophy and principles, so I do the same here. Section on adventures, what type of adventures can a player expect when playing We Deal in Lead. I think it's important to give an idea, just to kind of starter for 10, like reading through this is what your players might experience. This is the kind of fun they can get up to. Or otherwise, looking at the content and safety tools. So as We Deal in Lead is based on Dark Tower, which is a dark post-apocalyptic fantasy sci-fi horror from Stephen King. It's inspired by the Dark Tower. So there are topics, there are dark fantasy topics: violence, revenge, horror, death, sacrifice, and gore. So if, when running this at your table, always have a discussion about safety tools and what type of content you do want to see and don't want to see in it. So here's another one of the amazing gunslingers that Felipe drew for me, created for me. Right, so these are the principles. It starts off with principles for wardens, and then principles for players. This piece of art is from me, by myself. You might recognize, potentially recognize a likeness for Clint Eastwood. And this is based on the character that he's based on in the Dark Tower, which is Roland, the gunslinger. Another piece from Diaz Holm, and we've got Principles of the Drifted World. So the Drifted World in We Deal in Lead is the a world that's moved on, so borrowing a phrase from the Dark Tower. So this is the world of the gunslingers. So it's probably worth, if you're not familiar with the Dark Tower, it's as I mentioned, post-apocalyptic, but it's in a world that's kind of slowly falling apart over centuries, thousands of years. Time has kind of lost meaning as well, and there's an order of knights, essentially, who are gunslingers. So it's a mix of Wild West and fantasy and medieval and horror, sci-fi. So you play a group or an order of gunslingers, so who are navigating the drifted world. So in the Gunslinger Oath, this is again inspired by the Dark Tower. I do not kill with my gun. They who kill with their gun have forgotten the face of their elder. I kill with my heart. And we've got Gunslinger Creation, another two amazing pieces from Felipe. So character creation is pretty quick. Just roll on random tables at the back of the PDF or at the back of the book. And then you can get up and running with a gunslinger pretty quickly. And here's an example of gunslinger creation. So this profile art is from Evangeline, which, she was kind enough to make this for me. Then we get into the rules. So it's based on Cairn, so you've got 3 ability scores: Strength, Dex, and Heart. So I've swapped out Willpower for Heart, because it ties into that a gunslinger kills with their heart rather than their gun. Typical D20 roll under system. Low is better, high is worse, except when it comes to damage. So I've borrowed some kind of quality of life changes, like advantage and disadvantage. We've got some basic rules like NPC reactions, which I find really useful, really helpful. Morale as well. So Cairn is a lightweight forest exploration TTRPG created by Yohai Gal, and Yohai based it on Into the Odd and Knave, so stripped out a lot of the extra rules from something like Dungeons & Dragons, make it a bit more streamlined, but also bring in a bit more of a conversation between the warden and the players. The warden is the referee or GM. Here's the first piece of art from Perplexing Ruins, which is amazing. I'm a patron theirs, and this art is, if you're a patron, you can use their art in your commercial projects, which is excellent. Another Felipe. This is one of my favorites. So the Order of Gunslingers. So it's you're essentially a fellowship of gunslingers. So this is inspired by the group in the Dark Tower, the later books. So you've got Roland, who's the lead gunslinger. In this case, I've changed that, or I've turned that into the Errant. So it's the Errant Gunslinger. So part of being a gunslinger is having a quest. Roland's quest is to find the Dark Tower. So there's some sample quest ideas here. Locate and retrieve your elder's guns, hunt your elder's killer, slay the demon within you. So it's basically, it's more than it's kind of your life goal, or it's one of the goals of your life. So you strive towards it. You might find a situation where you need to sacrifice something in order to reach your goal, in order to complete your quest. Which again, borrowing themes from the Dark Tower. We've got items and equipment, artifact guns. So that's what I call the guns of a gunslinger, artifact guns, because they're a mix. They're magical and mechanical. So most of them are handed down from elder to child, forged from unusual or rare metals and wood, and then imbued with magical power. Got some items. Combat. So you can't have a gunslinger game without interesting and dynamic combat. So I'll come to to how the guns work, but these are basic Cairn combat rules. Another amazing image from Felipe. So the guns of a gunslinger. So what sets it apart? What sets apart We Deal in Lead from other Cairn games is the guns. So rather than so in a normal Cairn game, you don't roll to hit; you just roll for damage. But I wanted to set the guns apart, so I've created the shoot table, which is a 2d6 table. 2 to 9 is a hit, varying degrees. 10 and 11 is a miss, and 12 is a misfire. So you then roll on the misfire table, and you can bad things that happen varying from nothing, like a click and a wasted action, to the gun explodes in your hand and you take damage. It wouldn't be a gunslinger game without some special attacks or special like gunslinger abilities. So you've got the quick draw, of course. This is interesting because you can use quick draw at any time. So if you wanted to respond to an enemy's attack, you could use the quick draw action, quick draw ability. So it costs fatigue, which I'll get into. But that basically if an enemy is attacking you, you can choose to quick draw. So you can only... so how fatigue works is that you've got a certain amount of slots. You start with 10 free inventory slots. They're taken up by your inventory, but they're also taken up by fatigue. So some enemy attacks can cause fatigue. If you go too long without rest or food, you gain fatigue. Or some special abilities will cause fatigue. So like quick draw or these other special attacks. So each gun type has a different special attack. Like the twin 6-shooters, you can have 2 and 2, so basically fire each gun twice. The repeater, you can rapidly fire 3 shots. Scattergun, give it both barrels, which basically does what it says on the tin. So I wanted to carry across some of the special attacks and special abilities that I had in Runecairn and add that into We Deal in Lead. It gives it a bit more, gives combat a bit more dynamism and a bit more choice. And then of course you can't have a gunslinger game without duels, so there's a duel mechanic. Again, tying into the idea that a gunslinger shoots with their heart. It's a contested heart save, which is one of your abilities. And then gunsmithing, so you can modify your weapons if you find a gunsmith and you have you're willing to pay the price, and you have the right items that will help you upgrade your weapon or modify your weapon. So in Cairn, so you hit automatically with melee weapons, and you start with a grit rating. Or you start with a grit score, and as you take damage, your grit is reduced. So grit isn't health; it's your ability to persist and survive. So if your grit gets reduced to 0, then you start taking actual damage to your health. Your strength gets reduced. So your grit is kind of your buffer. It's your ability to avoid taking strength damage. But I flavored it as your ability to persist, your gumption. And if you hit, if you go to negative grit, then you start taking strength damage, and that triggers a critical damage save. Which, if you fail that, then all you can do is kind of crawl on the ground until you get help. And the interesting thing about Cairn and We Deal in Lead is that your enemies have to make critical damage saves too. So you need to wear down their grit, and then once you do that, you can start wearing down their strength and hoping that they'll fail strength, like a critical damage save, so that you can actually defeat them. Got the scars table, so if your grit gets reduced to exactly 0, then you roll on the scars table according to how much damage you took and how much damage took you down to exactly 0. So there's some cool and interesting things that happen when you roll on the scars table. We've got a combat example, which basically runs through a good combat session. Wilderness exploration. So because the drifted world is partially desert, partially it's kind of a mix of a bunch of different climates and a bunch of different regions. So you can have extremes of one version or another. So you can have extreme heat, extreme cold, and then this section looks at wilderness exploration and hex crawling. So if you want to, it's a system built in for exploring the world. So we've got wilderness encounters, other worlds. So the drifted world is also connected to other worlds through the slip doors. So there are ways to travel into other worlds through the slip doors, like was on the cover, or through magical gateways, which are an older and more unpredictable method of travel. There's hazards for traveling through different worlds. One's a chaos slip, basically a tear in reality that will attract and like basically all these Gribblies start to push their way into this world, and it's extremely dangerous to even be around. So it'll draw you in with its horrific wail. but then it'll grab you if you get too close. Then the red right hand, which is an immortal gunslinger who wanders the drifted world and other worlds, hunting down all the remaining gunslingers. Eater outside is basically something that exists outside of reality, outside of time and space, but is aware and is watching. And you need to be careful not to draw its attention, or else it'll rip you out of your reality. And yeah, there's rules for traveling inside and out of the drifted world. So the cool thing about We Deal in Lead is that you can travel into other worlds, other systems, other genres. So if you wanted to go into the world of Runecairn, for instance, which is a Norse fantasy world, you can. So I've run a session with gunslingers in going through Beneath the Broken Sword, which is my introductory adventure for Runecairn. But you can also go into other Cairn games. It's fully compatible with Cairn. So if you wanted to have a bunch of gunslingers go into Darkness Moves, for instance, which is Perplexing Ruins adventure, you can. So it's built for interoperability. So we've got some stuff on magic. How standard magic doesn't really exist in the drifted world. Not spells, not fancy magic. But there are rituals. And there are relics, just like there are in Cairn. So ritual is it's a more esoteric magic system. So there's varying degrees of success with it. There's a low chance that you might draw the ire of the Eater outside, who will rip you from the world if you manage to piss them off. This is the way magic works. It's replicating the world of the Dark Tower, which magic is weird and strange and unusual and has its own rules. And beast companions. So if you wanted to have a hawk or a bumbler, which is like this happy fellow, another piece of art from Amita. So not just humans can become gunslingers. Different beasts can have the instinct of a gunslinger as well. So there's some rules for having animal companions. And then solo play, if you want to play through it on your own, you can play up to one or more players. This is building on a system that I built for Runecairn. So you can use the the oracle that's built into We Deal in Lead, or you can use another oracle. It's basically just running through an adventure or running through a scenario. And if there's a simple answer, you can roll on the Favor of Sorrow table. But if something's a bit more complex or answer isn't quite as clear, you can read the cards using a D20 or a standard Major Arcana tarot deck. And then later on I've got an excursion generator, so you can use to generate your own campaign. So I've also included a introductory adventure, Swampwater Shootout. So I've got a couple of YouTube videos of me running playtesters through this. So it's just a quick little introduction to the world and gunslingers and kind of the interactions, combat, and a duel. And then here's the excursion generator. So you can use this to generate kind of short, like a shack with 10 different rooms, anywhere up to a city with 30 different rooms, up to 30 different rooms. So you roll on random tables and then have different encounters that happen. We've got the Bestiary, so most of the Bestiary art is from Diaz Holm, which is amazing. It fits really well with the tone and theme. We've got an amazing one from Perplexing Ruins, the Mayhem Beast here. So yeah, lots of cool Gribblies in the Drifted world. I love this Drifted Vampire. That's from Diaz Holm as well. And we've got some tips on converting adventures. So if you want to convert Cairn or into the Odd Adventure to use with We Deal in Lead Gunslingers, this is some tips on how to do that. And Runecairn, go into a bit more detail just because I know rune carrying really well. And then we've got the gunslinger table, so you can roll to generate your own gunslinger. So first names and surnames. Then we've got backgrounds, physique, skin, hair, face, eyes, etc. So you can quickly roll through here. I've also created a gunslinger generator website, which will automatically generate a gunslinger for you. I'll put the link to that in the description. And then we've got the hats. You can't be a cowboy without a hat. You can, but these are some cool hats. And your different gear. The index, there's a bumbler again. Here's the excursion generator, so you can map out your mini solo adventure, or you can use this to you can use the excursion generator to create like an adventure or campaign for your players as well. And then we've got the back page. So there we are. So the PDF is available now. So this is 95% done. The edit's going to be done in a few days, and then that'll be it, barring some minor tweaks. And then the hardcover is going to be available, hopefully, starting in October. I'm going to send it off to the printer right away. Right, so I hope you enjoyed that quick flip through, and hope you check out We Deal in Lead. It's available on itch, DriveThruRPG, and pre-orders are open on my shop right now as well, so there'll be a link in the description. So you can find me on Twitter at @ByOdinsBeardRPG. My website's byodinsbeardrpg.com, and my shop is shop.byodinsbeardrpg.com. Thanks, see you later.